No, I'm good. Nothing to talk about. No, I'm okay. Yeah, okay. You're right, we need to talk. So let's talk. So by now I'm sure you're aware that there's a challenge video going around called Show Us Your Steak, Men's Mental Health. Well, I was challenged by Jeff over at the YouTube channel, Jeff Coach Allen Off the Gridiron. And I'm going to put a link to Jeff's channel up here in the corner, and I recommend that you go over and check his channel out. Relatively small channel right now, but it's growing and it has a lot of good content on it. So the challenge is to talk about men's mental health while you cook a steak out in the woods. Okay, before we begin, I think it's important that I point out that I in no way can be considered a trained mental health professional. However, having said that, I have 36 years experience as a police officer working in an urban center. I also worked as a paramedic in the same urban center for 15 years on a part-time basis. And I can tell you that I witnessed an awful lot of mental health issues. And I witnessed issues that were left untreated and came to a point where people could no longer deal with their pain and ended up taking their life. And it's that experience that I draw on, as well as my training, that I want to share with you today. So why do we even have to talk about men's mental health? Well, statistics will tell us that as many as 1 in 3 people suffer some form of mental health issue. Those same statistics will tell us that as many as 1 in 3 men will suffer clinical depression at some point during their lives. And I think probably that number is underreported. Why? Because men just won't talk about their issues. So therein lies the problem. Men won't talk about their issues, and just as commonly, other men won't ask them if they need help. So from my experience, I can tell you that as a young police officer, if I experienced an especially traumatic event, I was unlikely to share my feelings with anybody for fear of being accused of unable to handle the job, less than a man. That's something I didn't want to risk. I think in the same way, many men, other than police officers, keep their problems bottled up inside. They just don't talk about them with other men for fear of being considered not strong. Just as commonly, men won't ask about if somebody needs help. Sometimes they feel like they're prying. Often they feel like they're not qualified to offer any help. What I want to do for you today is offer you the benefit of some of my experience. So many times we can't avoid those things that cause us stress. They're just part of our jobs, they're part of our life experience. But what we can do is work on our coping mechanisms to help us deal with those stress. Now you can do that in one of 2 ways. You can develop unhealthy coping mechanisms like I saw a lot of other police officers do. Oftentimes they would start drinking a lot, gambling, and to other risky behaviors as well. The alternative, the way I chose to go and helped me make it through my career, was to develop healthy coping mechanisms. Those things included things like long-distance running, volunteering in the community, and of course, being outside in the woods. But for some guys, coping strategies aren't enough. There's going to come a point when you're unable to develop any coping strategy that's going to help you with your issue. That's when it's time to seek help of a mental health practitioner. Okay, so what do you do if you know someone you believe may be suffering? Well, one of the best things you can do is ask them if they want to talk. Oftentimes, that's all that's really needed, is for an opportunity to talk, to get things off of their chest, to share their pain with someone who's willing to listen. That's not always enough, but at least it's a good place to start. But I will tell you this, don't ask somebody how they're feeling if you're not prepared for the answer. So what if somebody says, yeah, I really would like to talk with you. Can we sit down and talk? Well, the best thing you can do is listen. Just listen. Don't talk. Don't offer suggestions. Don't offer advice. Just listen and encourage the person to share everything with you. Sometimes that's all that's really needed, is just for someone who will listen. However, at some point during the conversation, you may hear the other person say something that really concerns you. You may hear a comment like, it's not going to matter after tomorrow. And in your mind, a light bulb's going to go off and say, what are they trying to say here? And of course, your worst fear is, are they considering suicide? What do you do if someone tells you something that makes you believe they may be considering killing themselves? Ask them. Directly ask them. Ask them, something you just said makes me worried. Are you considering hurting yourself? Or are you considering killing yourself? I want to tell you now, from a lot of experience, how many people have looked at me and answered, yes, yes I am. All right, if that happens to you, don't panic. you have just made the first step to saving that person's life. Settle down, take your time, and just talk. One thing I want to say is, don't ask in such a way that it sounds like a judgment. Don't ask in a way that you're thinking like, you're not thinking of doing something stupid, are you? That will shut the other person down in a hurry. What you want to do is get an honest response and just let them talk. All right, so talking about suicide is a tough subject. It really is. I can tell you that from my own experience. However, not talking about it is worse than talking about it. You're not going to hurt the person by talking about it. You're not going to put something in their mind they may not have already considered. They won't kill themselves as a result of you asking them if they were thinking about it. However, you can make the difference between them living and dying. So during the conversation, if they say something that make you think that they're going to kill themselves, and you ask them and they say yes, calm down. Let's think what you're going to do next. What you really want to do is to get that person to a trained mental health professional. It may take a lot of coaching on your part to get them there, and you may have to offer to go with them as a support. One thing you don't want to do at that point, if they appear to be in crisis, you don't want to leave them alone. You don't want to go home wondering what they're going to do that night. So stay with them and get them to mental health. Now, I will suggest to you, you may get them there by ambulance, and you can always get them there by the police. If they won't go voluntarily, the police do have authority to come and take someone to bring them to a mental health practitioner for an assessment. I know that's not the way we want to do it, but if that's the only choice you have, then it's something that you should consider. All right, so this has been a really tough subject for me to talk about with you because of all the experience I've had over the years, but it is that vitally important for us to talk about it. Now, it's this point of the video that I'm supposed to tag 3 other people to challenge them to talk about men's mental health while cooking a steak in the woods. I'm not going to do that, folks. I thought about it a lot, and I don't think it's fair to ask anybody else to talk about it who's not prepared to talk about it. Too many of us are suffering, and they're not in a position where they can talk about it, then why make them? So what I am going to do is I am going to offer this out and invite everybody who has experience or feels what they want to share in this conversation to make a video of their own, join in the conversation, and let's keep the subject going. All right, I'm going to end this video up, but before I do, what I want to do is let you know that I'm going to be putting references in the show notes below where you can go for additional information from the Canadian Mental Health Association, as well as places where you can go to get training on helping people that are considering suicide. So that's it for today. So until next time, oh, wait a minute. I forgot something, didn't I? I'm supposed to show you my steak. All right, hold on. My steak is cooking. I'll show it to you. Stand by. All right, fire's burnt down. We have some serious coals there. Might just pile them up a little bit. Bring some heat into the center. The steak's not very big. That should do it. And what do we have today? Venison. Ooh, almost slid right off. A beautiful piece of venison steak given to me by a friend. And what do you put on venison? Well, the only thing I can think of is Montreal steak spice, but not just any Montreal steak spice, the spicy version. And garlic. I don't think you can do without garlic. Garlic is always good. Alright, that's going to take a few minutes to cook. I'll flip it over. In my pot just above it, you probably can't see that in frame, I have a side of rice that I'll have with this. So this will take a few minutes to cook, and I'm going to enjoy a nice venison steak. All right, there it is. I finally got my steak done. And my venison steak, my rice, all ready to enjoy, and that's what I'm going to do now. Enjoy this, make a cup of coffee. It's a cold day in December here in Halifax, so this is going to taste really good. So after I finish this up, we'll close the video up. Okay folks, now it is time to wrap this video up. So we've just had a very serious talk about a very serious subject. But I think we need to keep this conversation going. So I would encourage you to talk about it in the show notes below. talk about it with your friends, and of course look at all the references I am going to put about it in the show notes below as well. But let's keep this conversation going. Let's get the guys talking about it. Let's make this thing less of a taboo subject. Let's open it up. You are no less of a man for talking about your issues. In fact, you're more of a man in my mind if you're strong enough to bring forward your issues. A lot of us suffer. We all could use someone to talk to. So let's do that. Let's keep this conversation going. Now, one of the things you can do is what I did today, which is to get outdoors and explore and take that path less traveled. It'll make all the difference. Bye for now.